For 5 seasons, America watched her trade jokes with the boys. She was Sally Rogers, the lone woman in a room full of comedy writers, quick enough to keep up with any of them, and twice as funny. And in nearly every scene, perched in her hair was a small bow. Viewers thought it was just her style, a little flourish, something cute. They had no idea they were looking at a widow's veil worn in plain sight on national television by a woman who had decided that if she could not say her grief out loud, she would at least carry it where everyone could see. The wound came later quietly in the middle of her greatest success, and she would carry it for more than 50 years. This is not the story you think you know. It is not the story of the funny lady from the panel shows cackling in the top square. It is the story of what that laughter was hiding. Because the truth about Rose Marie is that she spent the better part of her life performing happiness for an audience while privately mourning the one person who ever made her feel safe. And the most heartbreaking part, the part almost no one knew until the very end, is that she chose to keep it that way. She was born Rose Marie Mazzetta in New York City on August 15th, 1923. Italian on one side, Polish on the other. The name came from a Broadway musical that opened the very day she was born. It was as if the stage had claimed her before she ever drew breath, and it nearly had. By the age of 3, she was entered in an amateur contest at a New York theater. She walked out, opened her mouth, and out came a voice no one expected from a child, that small, huge, brassy, full-grown. She won. And just like that, a baby became a breadwinner. They called her Baby Rose Marie, the Child Wonder. By 5, she had her own radio show on NBC. She made records. She appeared in early sound films. People refused to believe that enormous voice belonged to a little girl. Some accused her of being a grown midget in disguise. She sang for Franklin Roosevelt in the Oval Office. She was, by any measure, one of the most famous children in America. But fame for a child is rarely a gift. It is a job, and the man who handed her that job was her own father. His name was Frank, and he performed under the name Frank Curley. To the public, he was her manager. To Rose Marie, he was a tyrant. He had another family she barely knew about. He never married her mother, a gentle, trusting woman who believed everything she was told. And the money, all that money, a famous child earns. Frank gambled nearly all of it away. Her mother never knew. As Rose Marie grew older, he did something even crueler. Terrified of losing his meal ticket, he drove away any boy who showed interest in her. He guarded her earning power like a jailer. The child who could fill a theater could not keep a single dollar or a single friend that her father did not approve of. And then there were the other men, the ones who watched over her. This was the 1930s, and the men who ran the nightclubs and the early casinos were not businessmen in the ordinary sense. Rose Marie would later write that her career was shaped by the mafia. She told of being looked after by Al Capone himself, who she said gave her a diamond ring and promised to watch over her the way an uncle might. Bugsy Siegel, Frank Costello. These were the names woven into the childhood of a little girl with a bow in her hair. She survived among them. But a childhood spent being protected by killers is not a childhood that teaches you to feel safe. It teaches you to perform and to keep your real self hidden. Then after the war, something happened that had never happened to Rose Marie before. She fell in love, and this time the man stayed. His name was William Robert Guy, but everyone called him Bobby. He was a trumpet player. Not a star, not a headliner, a working musician, the kind who sat in the orchestra and made everyone else sound better. He played with Kay Kaiser's band. He would go on to play with Bing Crosby, with Louis Armstrong, with Frank Sinatra. He was talented, he was kind, and he was funny enough to laugh at her jokes instead of being threatened by them. For a woman who had spent her whole life being used, that was everything. Her father, of course, tried to destroy it. He had chased off every other man. But Rose Marie was an adult now, and for the first time, she refused to obey. They married in New York City in June of 1946. She was 22. It was, by every account she ever gave, a happy marriage, the rarest thing in her life, and the one she treasured most. Bobby did not want to own her. He did not gamble away her money. He simply loved her. They moved to California and built a quiet life in the suburbs, away from the spotlight. And for the first time, the famous little girl got to be an ordinary, contented woman. A year later, their daughter was born, Georgiana, whom they nicknamed Noop. Bobby's career flourished. He became the first trumpeter for the orchestra on a brand new program called The Tonight Show. And it was Bobby who first noticed something about the bows. Rose Marie had worn ribbons in her hair since she was a child performer, bright ones, a whole rainbow of colors. Bobby loved them. He thought they were charming. He would tease her about them, and she would laugh. It was a small, silly, private thing between a husband and a wife. No one watching her on television would ever have guessed how much those little bows would come to mean. In 1961, the role of a lifetime arrived. A new sitcom called The Dick Van Dyke Show needed a sharp, funny woman to play Sally Rogers, the only female writer on a fictional comedy program. Rose Marie was the second person cast, right after Dick Van Dyke himself. She was nearly 40, but she had been performing for more than 30 years, and she was ready. Sally Rogers broke ground, a working woman holding her own in a man's world years before that was something television was willing to show. Rose Marie was finally fully a star. Her life was in that moment as good as it had ever been. She had her husband, her daughter, and the best role of her career. She did not know she had less than 3 years left of all of it. It came without warning. In the spring of 1964, Bobby Guy fell ill. It was a blood infection, a poisoning of the bloodstream that moved fast and was caught too late. There was no long goodbye, no slow decline that let a family prepare. One moment he was her husband of 18 years, the man who made her feel safe. And then on May 27, 1964, he was gone. He was 48 years old. Rose Marie was 40. The one person who had ever loved her without wanting something from her was simply suddenly not there anymore. The timing was almost unbearably cruel. Bobby died just before production was set to begin on the 5th and final season of the Dick Van Dyke Show. Rose Marie was so destroyed by grief that she nearly walked away from the role, from the best part she had ever been given in the middle of her greatest success. She did not want to perform. She did not want to be funny. She wanted to disappear. It took the show's director, John Rich, to talk her back from the edge, to convince her to come to set and do the job. And so she did the most difficult thing a performer can ever do. She went back to work, and she made America laugh, while inside she was breaking apart. And this is where the bow comes back. After Bobby died, Rose Marie made a decision. She would never again wear the bright, colorful ribbons he had loved. From that day forward, she would wear only black. A small black bow every single day for the rest of her life. It was mourning made visible, a widow's color hidden inside what looked like a costume. She wore it on camera. She wore it on the panel shows. She wore it everywhere she went for more than half a century. Every time I wear the bow, she would finally say. Near the end, I think of him. I think of him laughing at me. He thought I was very funny. She never remarried. Not once in 53 years. She had been widowed at 40, and she would stay a widow until she died at 94. She raised their daughter alone. And the work she took afterward, the years on Hollywood squares, the steady, reliable game show paycheck she once admitted, she took partly because she was too depressed to chase the bigger roles, the acting and singing she had once dreamed of. The square in the corner was safe. It asked little of her. It let her keep showing up, keep being funny, keep going on the days when going was all she could manage. Grief did not make her quit. but it quietly rearranged the rest of her life around the shape of what she had lost. The decades passed, and the world moved on. The Dick Van Dyke Show became a classic, but the spotlight drifted to others. Mary Tyler Moore got her own show, and then another. Betty White became a national treasure. Rose Marie, who had been performing longer than almost anyone alive, never got the solo series people kept saying she deserved. Dick Van Dyke himself would later lament that she never got her own show. She kept working cameos, voice roles, a tour with 3 other women her age, called 4 Girls 4. She outlived her co-stars one by one. And slowly, quietly, the woman who had been famous for 90 years began to feel something she had never quite expected. She began to feel forgotten. There was a bitterness in it, and she did not always hide it. She had been the second person cast on one of the greatest sitcoms ever made, and yet she felt history had filed her under supporting. She had resented even during the show that the camera loved Mary Tyler Moore more than it loved her. These were old wounds, and they ached. But here is the thing about Rose Marie that the bitterness never quite covered. She never stopped. Through grief, through being overlooked, through outliving nearly everyone she had ever shared a stage with, she kept showing up. Late in life, she joined Twitter and delighted 100,000 strangers with the same quick wit she'd had at 4 years old. She refused to disappear. In 2017, a filmmaker named Jason Wise made a documentary about her. He called it "Wait for Your Laugh." For the first time, she told the whole story: the father, the mob, and finally, at last, the secret of the black bow. For more than 50 years, she had refused to explain it. When the Smithsonian asked for one of her bows for its collection, she gave it to them, but still would not say why she wore it. "It's a very private, personal reason," was all she would offer. Now, near the end, she finally let the world in. The bow was Bobby. It had always been Bobby. The grief she had carried in plain sight for half a century finally had a name. She died on December 28, 2017, in her home in Van Nuys, California. She was 94. A caretaker found that she had simply stopped breathing, resting in her bed. The documentary had premiered only weeks before, so the world got to hear her story from her own lips, in her own unmistakable raspy voice, just in time. On her website, her family posted 4 words above her photograph. "Heaven just got a whole lot funnier. She was survived by Georgiana, the daughter she had raised alone." And the next morning, flowers were laid on her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It is easy to call her life a tragedy. The cruel father, the stolen childhood, the husband taken too soon, the recognition that never quite came. All of it is true. But to leave it there would be to miss the woman entirely. Because Rose Marie did not let grief make her bitter enough to stop or proud enough to hide. She wore her broken heart on her head every day for 53 years, not as a complaint, but as a quiet act of faithfulness to the one good thing she had ever been given. She kept her promise to Bobby in front of the whole world, and almost no one ever knew. That is not the story of a victim. That is the story of someone who carried an unbearable thing with grace and made other people laugh while she did it. So the next time you see her top square, raspy laugh, that small, dark bow catching the studio light, you'll know. It was never just a bow. It was love. And she never once put it down.